Oh, my father couldn't even go past the 5th grade, and he loved learning. And he would get books. He taught himself to read. He taught himself classics, music. He was a scholar. And I thought, here I have this opportunity to go on and get a terminal degree. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? So I decided to do that, and I decided sociology because my undergrad degree and my master's degree were both in education.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wanted to do something different, right? And sociology, that's the kind of work I was doing as director of, I'm just going to call it Black Student Services, that's what it was called back then.
Yes.
Was sociology, that's what I was doing. And so I looked into it, and it seemed, and I didn't want to go to University of Northern Colorado because they had a doctorate degree in student affairs, but I didn't want to, I had kids, I didn't want to have to drive back and forth to Greeley. So I said, so what else? What is closest to what I'm doing? And sociology was what came up, so that's why I decided to do sociology. Never had a sociology class at all before I got to the PhD program.
And how did you survive?
I loved it, actually, because I was learning new stuff. And basically I had put my kids to bed, and I just had a baby, so now I had 3 kids. And I put them to bed, and then that's when I'd study, and I'd be up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, a couple mornings, just trying to get everything done. Used the weekends a lot. Had great support from my husband, and that's how I did it.
And
it took me long now because I was doing it part time.
Yes.
Because I was working. It took me 8 years.
Okay. Well, that's an awesome achievement. I mean, seriously. And then you did that, and then you became, and then when you did that, you went to, I believe, Pikes Peak?
I went to Pikes Peak Community College.
Yes.
So that's because of my husband. So I had no intention of leaving CSU. I was very happy in my job. I was very happy working in Black Student Services. I loved that I could work with students. I was teaching. So, life was good. And then my husband's job, they decided to close the plant. He worked in high tech, and close the plant here in Fort Collins and move it to Colorado Springs. And so we had a conversation about, do I stay up here and with the kids, and he go to Colorado Springs and work and come home on weekends. And we decided not to do that because we had just adopted our 4th child, and he was 2. And for me, I didn't adopt a child to not have the father home, but a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
So we decided no. And then our next daughter was 8 years old. So we decided, we would move. And so when I went down there, I looked for student affairs positions in Colorado Springs, and it's just hard to find. They don't have that many universities. But because I had my PhD, and in one of my classes, a couple of my classes, there's this woman who we worked on some projects together.
Yeah.
She was dean of what would be equivalent to like College of Liberal Arts or Arts and Sciences at Pikes Peak. And when she heard that I was coming down, she said, hey, I need a sociology professor. You have a PhD in sociology, would you like to teach? And I'm like, I've never taught sociology, but I've taught education and leadership, so I'm like, sure. So that's how I got there.
And then you stayed there, and then you came back.
I came back.
Why did you come back to Colorado State?
Because I went there, I loved teaching full-time. I did not like living in Colorado Springs. Fort Collins was my home. That's where my friends were. That's where I wanted to be. And I said when I left, I was going to come back. I did not see myself staying forever in Colorado Springs. I didn't know how I was going to come back, but I said I was going to come back. So after 2 years, my husband was in high tech, and he knew that his job, they were laying people off right and left and closing plants because, they were moving a lot of that overseas. So we knew he was going to lose his job at some point. So I said, you're going to lose your job. You don't know what you want to do. I know what I want to do. I want to go back to Fort Collins. So I'm going back. And I welcome you to join me. So I decided to come back.
Yeah.
Did not have a job. And I knew that I could teach sociology either here, because I had connected with the chair here, and also at Pikes Peak. I mean, at the Front Range. My husband was going to get a package when he left, so it wasn't huge for me to have to work full time right away. So I came back, and that's what I was going to do. And then the vice president of student affairs at the time and the associate vice president both got jobs elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
So they called me and said, "Hey, would you like to be an interim assistant vice president while we do a search and find a new vice president first?" And then, and I had never really thought about being a vice president. I never really thought about going to higher administration. I didn't want to. I like working with students. I like being a director. But the woman who was the associate vice president, she was an African American woman, and she used to tell me that one day I'd have her job, and I would tell her, "Oh no, I will not. I don't want your job."
And why is that?
I didn't want to be in the administration building. I didn't want to be that far removed from students. I just thought, I have children, and everybody I know that's an administrator seems like they work all the time. And I like being a mother, and I like doing things with my children. I didn't want to work all the time and sacrifice that relationship with them. So I had said I'd never want to do it. But, see, never say never. Because when they called me and said, "Would you like to do this?" It was on an interim basis, and I thought, I don't really want to be an assistant VP, but I'm coming back to Fort Collins. I need a job. It gets me back into the system, and then I'll look to see what else might open up. So even when I came back in that role, I wasn't planning on staying in it.
Oh, wow.
And they hired as the interim vice president the man that I worked for many years in housing and knew him really well. So we made a pretty good team, and I found that I ended up enjoying it. So I ended up staying at assistant VP. Then when we hired a permanent VP in, she promoted me to associate VP. And I did that for 6 years. And I was very happy in that role. And then the vice president decided that she wanted to go into teaching. And so Tony Frank, who was the provost at the time, who is now our president, asked me if I wanted to be vice president. And I said no.
Why? Why was that?
Again, I worked with the vice president, and I would go home most nights when she was still sitting at that desk working. And I thought, there weren't very many role models at that time of black women who were vice presidents. There's still a lot of racism and sexism happening in the world, as it is now, but even more so then. I didn't think I was prepared to do the job, so I lacked confidence, and I think that's a gender and race issue as well. I just thought there's just so much I don't know, and I don't want to get into this position and not be ready for it and disappoint people, disappoint my co-workers, the people who would be dependent on me, disappoint my husband, my children, my family, and most importantly, I did not want to disappoint me. I knew I was good as an associate VP. I knew that I was good at that role. So I was like, I don't think so. And he just said, think about it. I asked them, I said, you need to interview all of my staff, the people who would be reporting to me directly, and to see if they are supportive of me doing this. And they were, and they kept telling me, Blanche, why would you let them hire somebody else to come in as your boss to run this division when you could do it? You know, we want you to do it. So I said, all right, I'll do it on an interim basis and see if it works for me. And so I did it on an interim basis, and obviously I ended up liking it, and now I'm going into my 12th year.
And what type of leadership style do you take in your job?
I'm a very relationship and Those are really important to me. Consensus builder.
Yes.
I like to get lots of different perspectives and opinions around an issue before making a decision about it. I'm not afraid to make a decision, and I know that the buck stops with me. But I found when you can engage other people, 2 or 3 minds is better than one. Even if yours happens to be the vice president, and I don't know everything. And so, very consensus builder. I believe I try to be very positive. I like to bring excitement and growth, and that you learn every day in what you're doing in your job, and you should enjoy your job. You should have passion for your work.
Exactly, and because I can sense that, because you gave me a chance when nobody, not a crazy kid. Yeah, and I remember also you didn't even know me, and you didn't know a lot of us, but you kind of gave us all of us a chance, and I could see you and I forgot her name, the other associate vice president, Kathy. You and Kathy, you guys are always talking to students, stuff like that. So I can definitely say yes to that. And but now we have to go to what is some of your toughest parts of your life, and how did you deal with it?
One of the toughest parts of my life was my husband and I ended up having a child while I was in college.
Oh wow!
So beginning of we had a baby. We got married right after our sophomore year, so we were 20. And we got married in June, and my daughter was born. Our daughter was born in August, 2 weeks before school started. We started school on time. We finished school on time, and it was friends and professors. That's the advantage sometimes of going to a small school. Everybody just kind of helped us.
Yeah.
When we graduated, the registrar's office made a little diploma for my daughter.
Yes.
That looked like one for my husband and I. And so those were tough times, but we worked through it, and I'm happy to say my husband and I have been married 42 years. So, we stayed together.
Yeah.
That was tough. The other tough time in my life was when I was working on my PhD, and I had done all the coursework, and we had to take comprehensive exams. We had to take 2 comprehensive exams. I passed one and I failed the other one. And I had never failed anything in academics my entire career. I was always pretty much an A, B student, always. And so I was just devastated. And I was just going to give up, because you could only take it one more time. If you failed it the second time, you were out of the program. And this is at the end of 8 years, right? So I'm just like, So I was going to give up, look for a different PhD program in education, one that I knew I could do. And so, actually it was one of my students that I was talking to. He was one of my student staff members, and I shared it with him. I didn't share it with a whole lot of people, but I shared it with him. And I basically said, I'm done. And he goes, no, you're not. He goes, you always are telling us how we have to, if we fail, we just study harder, we figure it out, but we don't give up, we never give up. He goes, and you can't either. And he didn't let me, so I ended up taking it again and obviously passing. So those were probably the 2 biggest, but I have been so fortunate in my life, so fortunate that I have not had major, at this, knock on wood, major issues that have kept me from being able to pursue my dreams and to pursue a good life and raise kids, 4 kids. I have 5 granddaughters, and for the most part, most of them are doing well. So I cannot complain. My life has been a good life.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have almost 1 minute.
Okay.
And so I'd like to give you ask one more question.
Okay.
What makes life worth living for you?
The possibilities of what could come and make it a difference in people's lives. Whether it's my children and my grandchildren, even my husband. But I was meant to be an educator. I just, I'm not teaching elementary school, but I was meant to be an educator. And I love being in an environment where I can make a difference and where I continue to learn and grow every day and love my work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.